But when you can make love to your partner's soul, that's a game changer. And we haven't been taught how to do that or even how to receive that. So
We've been taught by porn. And I think,
unfortunately, we've been dumbed down.
and I always say when I first started doing some interviews on sex, sexuality, and intimacy, I was telling my husband, I was like, I'm doing, like, I don't know how to do sex. I thought I did. I feel like I'm doing sex education all over again because, like, what did I know? I didn't know nothing.
And it's not your fault. They don't teach us. Our think about in high school days or whatever education we get on this topic, it's either abstinence and shame and wait till you're married, don't get a STD and fear, and don't get pregnant. That's it. It's never about how beautiful this can be, how empowering this can be.
It's a real pleasure to have Dominique D'Vita on the show. Welcome.
I am so excited to get to share with everyone today and have this amazing conversation.
It's going to be fun because, and actually, it's going to be extra fun because when you reached out to me, I said, well, yeah, it'd be great to talk more about sex and Tantra. I know nothing about that. And of course, with low libido and menopause, I think it's a great chat. But I wanted to go through your program to see more like what you're about. And so we'd have a more enriching conversation. And it was really great. So you had this online program. I'll put a link to that in the show notes at the end. But I just had so many questions pop up. So
I love that.
my first thought was, okay, let's break down Tantra because I thought it was something totally different. I I thought it was all about wild sex and intense partner connection, and I think that's a stereotype. So why don't you
Yes.
explain in simple terms what Tantra really means, especially that tantric sex?
Yes. Tantra, a byproduct of Tantra is that you can have better lovemaking, but that's not even what the intention of Tantra is. And it's really teaches us how to awaken and expand our life force energy, our vitality, our chi energy through breath, sound, and movement, and having a deeper connection and a better relationship first with ourselves. And then that allows us to have deeper presence and connection whenever we are with a lover. But people would use these practices to really tap into their highest power. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we get to the top of that pyramid is self actualization, Tantra is a tool for you to have self actualization. But also, if you want to think of this, when I became a trauma informed master coach, one of the things that motivated me to do the program was my coach had said, you can only meet your clients' emotions as deeply as you've met your own. And on a side note with that, I'll share that as I went through all my trauma modules in that program, I learned that the three things in our modern world that are used to heal trauma are breath, sound, and movement. Well, I had already been on this tantric journey, and I learned that the three tenets of Tantra for over 5,000 years are breath, sound, and movement. And I'd had such deep healing within myself with Tantra, and I wasn't quite exactly sure why. I was like, oh, kind of like the sexual healing Marvin Gaye would sing about. It has all these amazing healing practices, both for inside or outside the bedroom. But again, if we can only meet someone as deeply as we met ourselves, that even goes into being a lover. If we haven't met ourselves deeply, if we're hiding parts of ourselves, if we're having shame, if we're disconnected from our bodies and not being able to have presence, we won't be able to connect that deeply with someone else. And Tantra helps you use through your five senses to drop into your body and experience more pleasure. Because if you look at how we are in our world with children, we send them to school and we kind of program them to start operating from the neck up. And our values are about either how we look or how smart we are, how many facts we can recite. And everything is very superficial or very disconnected and just, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? And we're not connected to our power of our feeling and dropping into the wisdom of our bodies. That's what Tantra helps you do, though.
Yeah, it's interesting that I didn't even know. Yeah, that was the intention isn't about sex. It's about a byproduct. So when I started the program, it was all about looking within and connecting with yourself. And here my husband is in like, when can I come in? What part do I come in? I'm like,
I love
hang
that.
on. I'm still working. Like it's all about me now. Hang on.
Yes.
Because I had this impression. I told him, I was like, oh, we're gonna do this tantric sex thing. And he's like, what? Oh, okay. Tell me what to do.
He was ready. He was ready for it, Zora. I love that. And the thing is, it always does start with you. Like Tantra, Pink Tantra focuses on our heart chakra and self love.
Mhm.
And if we look at relationships, relationships are just mirrors and they're reflecting back to us the relationship we have with ourselves. And so when we start to have a better relationship with ourselves, that's when we have the better relationship with the other. So it always does start with ourself first. That's the foundation.
Yeah. So, yeah, you did spend a lot of time with that. And I think it's foundational for everything, especially in midlife, right? We're
Yes.
trying to connect better with ourselves, or if you are thinking about changing your body composition, but you can't look at yourself in the mirror, or you don't like what you see, you're bringing this all together. And so, again, it's so useful. But so, what about in terms of of sex and the shame that goes with it? Because you did cover shame and guilt and all these things that are stopping us from having our true self pleasure. Where do you think this conditioning starts, and how can we unravel it?
We start being programmed with shame as early as 15 months of age. And
Wow.
so it's pretty deeply ingrained into us. And we often carry it's a almost like a generational trauma. We're carrying down from many generations our lineage of the shame that was programmed to them by their society and their parents, religion, other things that continue to shame us and disempower us. And look at how men and women are, and boys and girls are treated so differently. One thing is, even as young girls, we're taught to sit ladylike and to cross our legs. We're literally crossing our legs and hiding this,
Mhm.
what is actually amazing as a portal and a power center for us. But we're like to hide it. Whereas you see men will sit with their legs just open and fully relaxed. Right? There's like
About
no shame.
side saddle horse riding. Who was riding side
Yes.
saddle? The females.
Yes. Exactly. That's such a great, I love that
Ride a
you brought
horse.
that in here. Yeah, so it's so much programming into it. And even sex isn't even about empowering to us. It's there's such a weird thing about as women, it's okay for us to be desired by men, and we should just handle that and be ready at the drop of a hat whenever they're ready and always cater to the men. But then when women start to step into a space of having desire for themselves, we're shamed for it. That's when people get uncomfortable. Oh, like you want this and this is about you and what your needs are. No, you're just supposed to be tuned into what my needs are. And then that creates some friction. And I feel like there's a lot of shaming too, because even if you think about this, they try to tell women, oh, you were made from the man's rib. Really, I think you were birthed out of a woman's body. But I think there's so much power that women hold that patriarchal society is really uncomfortable with. And so they've changed these stories and also told us these stories so that we can forget about the power that we have.
Mhm.
Because so many men even have fantasies about having threesomes or this or that. But most men, they don't even have enough stamina to satisfy one woman in the bedroom, if we're going to be honest. If anyone could handle multiple partners, and I'm not saying it's a choice we should have, but I'm saying if anyone would have that stamina, it would be a woman. And I think that also makes men uncomfortable because they know that. And so then it's like, oh, let me control them, or they're insatiable. There's actually this, sometimes people will try to control things that they envy or they wish that they had or that are mysterious. Like, how can we grow humans inside of our body? So we are so powerful, and society has been trying for a very long time to have us forget how powerful we are.
Yeah, it's it's really sad, actually, you think about it too, because if you have a man who's high libido and he's considered strong, or he's a stallion, look at him. But if a female is mimicking this, oh, she's a tramp, or she it's not celebrated like it is for a man.
It's
It's so
Yes, it is unfair. And then what really gets me sometimes, I'm like, okay, if men want to be able to have this wild libido and put all the notches in their belt, you know what I'm saying, before they get married and settle down, well, what women are they being with?
Yeah,
Because if they expect women to save themselves, so then it's almost like there's this, they split women into like, you are wifey material, but you are just fantasy material. And then when I'm done with you, then I'll go for the person that's wifey material. And we kind of shame or make those women that are maybe more comfortable in their sensuality or sexuality, we deem them as not worthy to like have children with or to have a home with.
Mhm.
Because it's also scary for men when a woman does have a sexual appetite.
It scares them.
Yeah, because they wonder, are you insatiable? Like we
Mhm.
hear all these stories of like the nympho. It's like so crazy.
Mhm.
Like you're so insatiable. And then, you know, when I'm not home, what are you going to be doing? Because you just can't be sat this, you know, but men have the power to bring very satisfying experiences to women if they understood tantric lovemaking and not what they've learned through watching adult videos
Mhm.
and performative, ego based, superficial
Mhm. Well, then
lovemaking.
what's the difference among sex, tantric lovemaking, and just lovemaking?
Sometimes, okay, tantric lovemaking is, it's going to give us a connection through breathing together through all of our systems. We have these chakra energy centers within our body that Tantra dives into. And so you're connecting with someone on an energetic level. You're also having an emotional connection with them. A lot of tantric practices are also nervous system regulation, somatic. So your nervous systems are syncing up together and you're feeling a lot of safety and deeper connection. There's a sacredness. It's like an honoring. I think you can have lovemaking where there is love and respect there with the person and you're having lovemaking, but you don't know how to, you may feel, I feel love for them, but you're not really able to fully connect on all these other different levels, like on an energetic level and on a soulful level. I can make love to you, but do I really know how to make love to your soul? Because with intimacy is into me, you see, a lot of times we can be butt naked in the bed with someone and doing crazy positions and everything. But if they try to make eye contact with us, all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, so self-conscious because we are have a fear of being seen. But this is also programmed through shame for so long. And how in our society, a lot of times we wear masks so we can appear a different way. And so that we're not, it's a safety strategy from past generations so that we don't kicked out of the tribe. Because if we get kicked out of the tribe, we don't survive because we're in the wilderness by ourselves. But this has been in our lineage and through epigenetics, like generational trauma, things get passed down in our DNA. And so we always want to be accepted. And so we still are wearing a mask and being performative and not fully letting someone see us, not fully being vulnerable and open with someone.
Mhm.
And then, but when you're married and you have love there, or if you're just in a loving relationship and you have love making, but a lot of people work with sex from an ego based performative space. And it's just skin to skin and not connected. And then people are wondering, why can't I find a soulmate? If you only know how to have sex in a shallow, superficial, skin to skin way, that you're only going to have relationships that are shallow and superficial. If you want to have a relationship and you want to have a soulmate, Tantra creates soulmate relationships. You need to know how to have soulful lovemaking. You need to know how to make love to that person's soul and fully see them and have a deep reverence for them and honoring them as the divine that you see in them and them doing that with you in return. And then you go to this deeper experience. And that's where the pleasure can build, the connection can deepen, intimacy can grow. And we often, women, we crave intimacy and emotional connection so much. But if you think about boys and men in our societies, they've been taught to disconnect from their emotions and their feelings. So they're the strong ones, the protectors, the providers. Big boys don't cry. So for so many decades, they've been disconnecting from emotions. And now they're in a relationship with a woman, and the woman is crazy. Oh my gosh, I just want to connect with you. And I just want to feel this emotional bond with you. And the men are at a loss because they're like, I don't even know how to connect to my emotions. Like, I've been suppressing. The only thing I might feel comfortable expressing is anger. Like, I don't understand the range of my emotions. They don't have that emotional attunement or intelligence that women were naturally connected more emotionally. And that's why sometimes men will say women are so emotional, but it's actually healthy to have a relationship with your emotions and connect to that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, it seems that women are craving deeper connection and intimacy more than just like good sex. But what if your partner just isn't into all of this? Like he goes, "Oh, this is so woo," or you're trying to have this connection and he can't feel it, or he's just not understanding. Can you still create that intimacy and connection just by working on ourselves and say, ugh, he'll come around someday?
One, as women, we need to understand that our pleasure and our sensuality is just not about another person. And I think when we get to be in a monogamous relationship, a committed relationship, if we're self pleasuring, it can be viewed as, what, am I not satisfying you? Or you shouldn't be doing that. Our sensuality is about when we're with our partner.
Mm-hmm.
And women, we can put this expectation on men as well. Now, with men, if men are having an addiction to watching adult videos and things like that, there's a higher incidence of having ED because you get dependent upon all of the stimulation you get in watching videos to maintain erection. And so that's a whole other piece and layer to it. But what is happening is, how do you say this? If we can't have a lover to be with us in this, to have tantric experiences, we can create first our own tantric self-pleasure rituals without that person. And then when we continue to be in the juiciness and the vibrance of that, sometimes it increases our magnetism so much that then it's an invitation for them to join us. And when we approach lovemaking with them, we're going to approach it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. It can be a solo practice. And then sometimes you need to have those conversations because men are, what I'll share here is many women, especially during perimenopause and menopause, it's not that their libido is gone. It's just they're not interested in shallow or mechanical sex anymore. So Tantra gives us a way to bring more soul, more depth, more sacredness into the intimacy. So a lot of times men get upset because the woman is not desiring sex as much. It's not that we don't have a high drive. Sometimes we're tired of the type of sex that you're offering us that feels disconnected, that feels rushed, like a jackhammer. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not what women need. But men, I'm not trying to shame men. Men never get the right education on how powerful they can be in this area of their lives and how deeply healing it can be for the woman that they're with when they know how to use these tools and create a whole other experience. And then women will start to crave and desire more than the men. Now the men will be like, oh, not tonight, honey, I have a headache, because women will be really wanting that deeper connection, that deeper intimacy. I would love to guide you just really quick to demonstrate the difference in the sensation. And if for those of you that aren't driving or anything and you can do this, just get your hands together and rub them back and forth really fast together. Okay, now go really slowly back and forth. I want you to notice how much more sensation you can feel when you slow down. And our brain is our largest sex organ. So when men are doing these really fast pounding movements, we're not feeling as much sensation and they're fatiguing themselves or having themselves finish faster. And we're kind of missing one another. And they're thinking, oh, I'm putting in all this work and effort, but we don't even feel that much because our brain can't process that rapid movement. And so even if you just ask your lover, can you just slow down during this, because and have them do the hand exercise really quick so they can notice for themselves and be like, oh, you're not even feeling as much as I think you're feeling when I'm approaching it that way. And this is why we're missing one another. Now, if women have had if women are feeling very numb from either trauma or other experiences or shame, and they're feeling disconnected from their bodies, or they've also been programmed by watching adult videos because we never get the right education on this. So we turn to adult videos to figure it out. They may actually want the extra stimulation because they're numb and they need that to be stimulated. But then you need to think like, where am I armoring in my body? Where am I disconnected and disconnected from my pleasure? And with neuroplasticity in your brain, rewiring our pleasure pathways so that we can experience more and with different sensation.
Yeah, I can imagine. If I tell my husband, well, wait, yeah, you're doing all this friction and going real fast because you're numb. I don't know what he would say, but I'd have to do the little hand exercise and show him because he would really like, yeah, no, this feels good to me, and assuming it feels good to me. And that's why we have to have our voice as well and know what we want and all that and experimenting. But what would, if he's numb, if you say, okay, let's retrain you. That's my husband. He comes
No.
with all these ideas. He's like, oh my God, what do you come up next? And so we'll retrain you and say, try to get you to be more sensitive. Like, how long does that take to before he goes, okay, now I have a little, I don't need to be going fast and all this friction. Now, and then maybe
Yes.
there are some time. I know that there's a time and place for everything, I imagine,
Right.
with all kinds of some people, or sometimes me, I know sometimes I want it fast, sometimes I want it slow, sometimes I want this, or it kind of changes. But yeah. So the question is, how long does it take before he gets that feelings?
And it takes some time. And when with men, I don't want to say in a shaming way that they're numb, but also women, we can feel numb. And men, you've got to think too that whenever they first started having experiences with their bodies and self pleasure, they would do everything really fast so they wouldn't get caught by their parents. And
Mm.
so they're doing these rapid movements. And with neuroplasticity in the brain, this groove in the brain gets deeper and deeper. And that becomes like that pleasure path that you know, and you travel down that path very fast, like a ski slope. So when I work with men, I'm teaching them through neuroplasticity how to create new pleasure pathways and longer pleasure pathways so that they're lasting longer. So men are actually, with tantric lovemaking, they're actually able to have longer and stronger erections. They can be multi-orgasmic, have stamina for hours, and they don't just last longer in bed, they'll last longer in life. This helps with their longevity as well.
Mhm.
This is why Taoism is very similar to Tantra in a lot of practices. And the belief is that the reason that on average the lifespan of males is shorter than females is because men lose a lot of their life force energy through frequent ejaculation.
Mm.
So, men, if you notice, after lovemaking, men will quickly fall asleep, whereas women will be more energized and talkative because we are energized through that experience, but men are drained. They've just released enough fluid. It has zinc, all these minerals in their semen that could have created how many millions of lives, and their body has to regenerate that. For women, we already had all of our ovaries and our eggs from birth. Women, we lose life force energy through menstruation, childbirth, and pregnancy. But we get energized by these orgasmic experiences because also men, they're shooting their life force energy out through their penis when they're ejaculating. Whereas women, when we can have full body orgasms, and men can too, we're rerouting and bringing that energy up inside of us. So it's a completely different thing. And then for women, when we get in menopause, also that's why if we're not losing our life force energy, we can, and we're connected to the power of our pleasure and our sacral chakra, we can tune more into our wisdom and we get into this crone or our queen stage in our life because we're not constantly drained and depleted by those other things. But men, they're actually able to have these deeper experiences, and it does take a while. I said, you Rome was not built in a day. You have been having this way of experiencing pleasure for decades. So it's going to take a while to do the rewiring and for them to do solo pleasure practices as well, because we don't want the men practicing on us. Because, when we're practicing and trying to learn something new, we're in our heads about it and we're not being present with our lover. And women, we're very intuitive. I'll tell my male clients, even if their partners don't know they're working with me or doing this work, I said, don't do your practices with a woman without letting her know. Like, first get a level of proficiency on your own and then do it with a lover. Because if you're just doing it in a very mechanical, methodical way, she's going to feel you're kind of checked out during sex because you're thinking, okay, I need to breathe like this and I need to do that. It's just like when you're trying to learn to drive a new car, you're like focusing on every little thing. But then once you get it down, you can coast and have some coffee and put on your lipstick or like whatever you can do all the things so with ease. So I'm like, you need to learn it first and then share it with a lover. Because for women, we like that connection. If we sense that they're checked out, sometimes it can feel like men are just masturbating inside of our bodies. Okay, why did I need to be here for this? I'm not, But I think with women, as we're getting wiser, a lot of our younger years, we can be spending so much time people pleasing, or we've been taught in patriarchal societies to focus on the men of what are the men's needs, and we're being good wives, and we're doing all these things while we're dating to be chosen, to be picked, and then we're pouring and nurturing into raising children and doing all these things, and we lose ourselves a lot of times in that process. And then by the time menopause is coming, we are so depleted if we haven't been having self-love and refilling our own cup. Mm-hmm. And if we've constantly been focusing on everyone else but ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's where resentment can build up. And it can be like, okay, I'm not here to settle for the same mechanical stuff. I'm craving something deeper. Mm-hmm. And this is not it.
That's the power of menopause. It's like enough, and we get to figure things out for ourselves. And it's interesting because you say we lose a lot of our life force energy with pregnancy and menstruation, but we should have a ton of that now that we don't have periods anymore and we're not getting pregnant. So there should be plenty of life force energy. But like you said, we don't even know the power that we have. And I guess neither do the men either. So this is why we're trying to learn some of these things. But what would you say to the woman who's going through menopause? She figures out the testosterone piece. She's absolutely loving it. Her libido is finally back. She's matching her partner. She's having fabulous orgasms. Not every woman who goes on testosterone has this, just by the way, but you hear these stories. Some women have.
Right.
So is she missing something by not having tantric sex? Should we interrupt and say, hey, there's something better going on, or just let her be, like all is good in the world?
Such a great question. We don't know something if it's missing in our lives, if we've never experienced it. Like for me, before I had a tantric lover, I was very much operating like Samantha from Sex and the City, and I was very much on my masculine energy, which our testosterone medications can have us be more in the masculine dynamic in our approach. So I approach things from performative, ego validation, those types of things. And then when I was already a recurring guest on Playboy Radio and giving sex tips to my friends, they're like, oh my gosh, the tips you gave me saved my marriage. And I was working as a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 2 decades at that point. And I was having better sex than like 99% of my friends, and multi-orgasmic, no problem. Of course, when I first was having sex when I was younger, I thought I was frigid and couldn't orgasm. So that's just learning about your body. But I was multi-orgasmic, and I was like, oh, I'm just like having better sex than everyone. I just know everything. And that's how we can think, because we don't know, if we haven't tried something, we don't even know what that experience is like. And then when I had my first tantric lover, he didn't even tell me that he had studied tantra for a year and had mastered this non-ejaculatory orgasms and semen retention. And when I was with him, I was 44 at the time. This is about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And I experienced this moments of having prolonged states of ecstatic pleasure for a 5-hour window of time. And one of my girlfriends afterwards was like, you always like to do stuff for a long time. Like, I just want them to be finished. But if it's that jackhammer move that's kind of numbing out, well, yeah, please just wrap it up and finish. Like, I yawn over here, right? But if you are, it was like an honoring of me as the goddess. And I noticed he didn't say anything, but in his body, I noticed, wow, he is, every time I'm having a climax, he's unfazed. Like, and so I even noticed as I reflected on this later, so many times prior to this, when I would be with men, I would have to almost rein in my pleasure. So I wouldn't push him to my partner to the point of no return. Mm. So now I got to be in a space where I was like, oh, I just can just run free with this and see what's really here. Yes. And we were on no substance, no alcohol, nothing like that. And I experienced such profound healing and having prolonged states of ecstatic bliss. And I had what they call like a Kundalini awakening within that, where all my chakras kind of got lined up, and my third eye chakra and my crown chakra open. I know that sounds very woo. And after the first,
how do you know your chakras are opened?
That's such a good question. I just had this experience that completely shifted my whole life path. And it was like I got really tapped in, like my intuition got online even more. And I started just realizing it's almost like I could see, maybe the rose colored glasses came off a little bit, and I could see past the BS of things in society and what was going on. It was like all of a sudden, like this awareness came through me, and I was just, I was questioning everything. I even spoke to him recently, and I know it was a hard time for me during our relationship because I faced an ego death for myself, because my whole identity of how society had groomed me to be, then I could see the truth in things. And he even warned me at the time. He was like, some of the things you're going to realize now are going to piss you off a little bit, and you can't unsee what you've seen. Like, I can't put my head in the sand anymore once I have an awareness on things. But I had these where I felt, finally, for the first time, I felt like, the way to describe it was, this was the first time I had a soulgasm. And I never had heard of the word soulgasm. And later, when I was reading some books by Osho, who brought Tantra to the West, he's talking about soulgasms in the books. And I was like, oh, no wonder. But it's almost like you start, like, things just start dropping in from, I don't know, the ethers. And you're so kind of tapped into the world around you, and you just start pulling knowledge from places. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. It sounds very woo, but it's very true. But when I was with him and I had these prolonged states, the next morning, I lived in LA, and I was at his place, and he says, would you like to come back again tonight? And I was like, man, is that a question? I'll be here. Because in LA and in traffic, you don't want to drive longer than someone can last him. Like, I could just be at home and handle this, so I was like, oh, I'll definitely come back for this again. Yes. And I thought the first time was a fluke. Second time, same thing. And it felt timeless, as if maybe 20 minutes to an hour had transpired, because time flies when you're having fun. And it was just this most incredible, profound experience. And I realized after this, I sat up in the bed when I was finished after having multiple orgasmic experiences. I sat there and I said, I just want to clone you and give one of you to all my friends. Because in this moment is where it broke my heart. Because I realized I don't even know how to begin to explain this to my friends. And I know so many women will never experience this in their lifetime. And it felt like, before, when I was having sex, I was just at the tip of the iceberg, scratching the surface. And now I had dove all the way into the depths of what was fully possible. And that put me on, like, Alice in Wonderland, like going down a whole rabbit hole. Because I was like, okay, if I'm 44 and had 2 children and lots of experiences, and I feel very empowered in my sensuality and sexuality, and I never experienced this before, what else can my body experience? What else is available to me that I don't even know about? So I will share that. Like, you probably have not even tapped into, and it's not to shame anyone, into your highest levels of pleasure. That could be, pleasure's medicine, could be so cathartic and deeply healing for you and shift everything.
Do you think that any of the women who are taking testosterone do feel that anyways? Is there a connection because they're both on the same level? I don't
I
know.
think they're probably feeling a lot of the physical pleasure of orgasmicness, and they're having more of a drive and they're feeling more empowered in that. So I bet they are having amazing orgasmic experiences and they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. And we don't, and that's wonderful. Again, you don't want to yuck someone's GA. Like if that's working for you, awesome. But are you curious to try something else? Because what if it could even get better?
Mm.
What else
Yeah,
is
that's
possible for you? Because there's something more with being with a lover that honors you as the goddess or as the queen. And it's like you're divine and it's a reverence and it's an honoring to that person. And they're fully dropped in and present. They're not thinking about an adult video that they watch and they're trying to recreate something. They're making eye contact with you. Your breath is syncing up together. They're fully there and they're like with you. They're like in it with you. It's amazing. And I've had a lot of lovers. I bet I've had a lot of lovers. I joke with my friends. I said, oh, I know my numbers are high, but my ratios are good. Cause I've even turned down a lot of celebrities that are sex symbols, but I've probably been with close to 100 men. And Tantra really slowed that down for me because I got more aware of the energy, that I'm exchanging energy with a person and I can't put on a body condom. Because before as a nurse, I'm like, well, as long as I have a glove on and I'm protected, I'm okay. And we've done our lab testing. But now I'm like, okay, now I'm aware of energy. So that shifted. But of all the men that I've been with maybe five or so, some of them that had like a little bit of knowledge of kind of the energetics, and it was better than most. But the two that had the full mastery of semen retention and that presence and connection, only two.
crazy.
And
Those
that breaks my heart.
100, only two, but they've been training. So, like all the women who are listening now, and we say we have long-term partners or just
Right.
maybe recently divorced and you have any partner. So, we gotta like train these guys. Like to it's I think it's okay. There's probably stuff we can do on our own, which is important. That's great, very foundational. But if you really want that connection, he's gotta be into it. And I can imagine what that must have been like. And I want you to, I'm gonna get a little intimate here. I want you to explain
I'm open.
what that first date was like. Like what did he say to you to to connect with you in that way? And that, I guess I'm assuming that happened from the very first date or moment you were
Yes.
with him. What did that
Yes.
look like?
It was, and what was so funny is that I'm the queen of TMI sometimes. So bear with me. I was actually on my cycle. So we had the first date and then we're back at his place and we're kissing. And he's just like, would you like to go to the bedroom? And he's a gorgeous man. He used to be an NFL player. And then when we started dating after that, he ended up being an issue of People's Magazine of the Sexiest Men Alive. He was very gorgeous.
Okay.
And
That
so,
helps. That helps a lot.
yes, yes.
There's
And
novelty, new guy, and he's hot. Okay.
yeah, there's all these things, the components, right? And so when he asked me to go to the bedroom, I was just like, I'm going to be very upfront with you. I was like, well, I'm just going to let you know because I don't like to like be the tease or play games. I'm just very open. And I was like, well, I'm just going to let you know. I'll go back to your bedroom with you, but nothing is going to happen because it's that time of the month. If it wasn't, I would completely jump your bones. So trust me. So this isn't a rejection, but we can play and kiss and whatever. And he was cool with everything. And wow, it was such an incredible experience. I was like, oh my gosh. Because he was so literally like he would kind of like bow down to me, namaste. I'm the goddess. And every time I would be in my orgasmicness, he would just like hold like he was so regal and he would just hold this energy of like, yes, I'm here to just receive all this energy that's flowing from you onto me. This is amazing. Keep them coming. Oh, and just such a flow in our breath work. And men, when their nervous systems are regulated, we are animal bodies. And so, with all the practices and yoga is great for nervous system regulation. He's a yoga teacher as well. He was teaching yoga lessons at the time to Paris Hilton and stuff. So, he's really great with yoga and meditation. And so, he's meditative because meditation helps because your brain is your largest sex organ. So, the longer a man can stay in meditative state, the longer he can last in bed. The longer a woman can stay in a meditative state, the more easy it is for us to be orgasmic. And so he was just able to hold this stillness of being completely present with me. And it was amazing because that's what we really want. I'm sorry, but we want connection. A lot of times as women, we might not even be so satisfied with the sex, but we really love our partner. And if they're emotionally not so connected, it's the one time they're really connecting with us. Yeah. Imagine that on a level 100xing that, you know what I'm saying? Or 10xing that. And they're just fully dropped in and be like, I'm right here, that nothing else matters in the world except we're in this bubble together of like bliss and connection and honoring of one another. And it was so beautiful. And he even shared with me too. He said, I feel so sad for my mom sometimes because I know my dad will never give her this experience, that she'll never experience this. And that's what's heartbreaking for me. Now, women, we have to be careful because I've had a lover before after him that I thought because I had the knowledge that I should train him, that makes things very unsexy. I think we get so used to that as women.
They have to be trained. If anybody's watching on YouTube, they'll see you like when totally present. Your eyes are there. Like I imagine him like looking directly at you and just having this trance. So what do we do then if we can't train them?
Encourage them to work with someone like me that can help them get the skills that they need. Because when men understand how powerful they are, because in Tantra, the penis is called a lingam, which means wand of light. The vulva is the yoni, which means sacred space. And so you're literally connecting for this. And if you're familiar with acupressure and acupuncture points and energy meridians, and you know how you look at the bottom of a foot, your hand, and it's linked to these organs. In the vaginal canal, our canal that goes to the pressure points of our lungs. Well, the shaft of the lingam pressure points to their lungs. The head of the lingam connects to their heart space, anatomically to the heart. Our cervix that it pushes up against connects to our heart space. So it's this sexual reflexology. So when we can be really present, there's a lot of healing properties to it. And men have been dumbed down by watching adult videos into the power that they fully hold. And when they are able to make love to the woman and totally crack their woman open with these levels of pleasure and connection, it takes your relationship. This is deeply how soulmates are created. And this is also why if a couple comes to work with me and they share that maybe their marriage is on the rocks, it seems like there's some dysfunctional patterns, maybe some abuse going on, and this is a last ditch effort, I won't coach them on tantric lovemaking because it creates soulmate connections. And I'm like, you two don't need to be connected more. You need to heal that stuff or see if you even need to be in relationship. Right. But what Tantra does is it creates soulmate relationships. So even if you're like, I love this person, we have a lot of history, I don't know that they're my soulmate, but I do really love them and I want to be here and we have children and a family. This is a decision that we're making and a commitment we made. This will crack you open into being soulmates because you can't be soulmates if you don't know how to have soul mating. But when you can make love to your partner's soul, that's a game changer. And we haven't been taught how to do that or even how to receive that. So
we've been taught by porn.
Unfortunately, we've been dumbed down.
Yeah. And I always say when I first started doing some interviews on sex, sexuality, and intimacy, I was telling my husband, I was like, I don't know how to do sex. I thought I did. I feel like I'm doing sex education all over again because Like, what did I know? I didn't do nothing. And so,
And it's not your fault. They don't teach us. Our think about in high school days or whatever education we get on this topic, it's either abstinence and shame and wait till you're married, don't get a STD and fear, and don't get pregnant. That's it. It's never about how beautiful this can be, how empowering this can be. And so, women, when we talk about the chakras, the sacral chakra, which is right below our belly button, is connected to our creativity and to our reproductive organs, our sexuality, our sensuality. So many women, either because they have been widowed or they're divorced or they're just single, they're letting that go stagnant and they're disconnecting from that. This is literally your power center. And your sexual energy is your life force energy. You were created from life force energy. This energy brought you into existence. There should be no shame in such creation. And pleasure is your birthright. But if we get disconnect from that, or our hormones are down and we're not having desire and our libido is being impacted by menopause, then we need to do what we need to do to rev those things up. And also know many women in midlife, it's not that they're lacking desire. We're just done pretending and playing along. But when we disconnect from this, then everything gets stagnant. I want you to think a river of water going and a river that it's flowing, right? It's really amazing. And then think of a body of water like a swamp where it's not moving and it's just stagnant. And all this residues at the top, which is a great petri dish for bacteria and disease and things like that to form. I would notice that in my patients when I was working as a nurse. I could tell when they were coming in with reproductive challenges, like menopausal challenges or needing hysterectomies or other things, but they also felt very shut down from their sensuality, very closed off. I couldn't quite put my finger on what was going on, but I was like, there's something about, and the medical team's not looking into that. And that's why I really want to empower women, because you want to keep those juices flowing through your life force energy, because that's what helps with your vitality, and it helps you with longevity and living longer. There's all these amazing hormonal shifts and releases in DHEA that happen and are released when we're orgasmic. And if we think our pleasure is just for someone else, and then if we don't have someone else, then we just disconnect from it, we're unplugging from our life force center. And we're not going to be in our full radiance and our fully empowered and lit up.
So, as a tantric sex practitioner, what's the biggest mistake that you see women in perimenopause and postmenopause making when it comes to their sex lives?
Thinking that their pleasure is about for someone else. I'm doing this for them. Or if they're not wanting to, then I'm not going to. Or I can't do it on my own or have solo self-pleasure. I start to reframe self-pleasure as a self-love ritual and filling your own cup. We can't pour from an empty cup, but as women, we're often giving to others and tuning into everyone's needs, and we're pouring when we hardly have anything left. Like, this is a way to resource yourself and fill your own cup. And everything is about that intentionality that you have with it. A lot of times for women too, we know how to get from point A to point B to be orgasmic. We know our bodies really well. And so we can give ourselves a quickie. But if our lover was to take that little time with us, we would resent them. Like, why aren't you taking time with me? Your inner self wants to know, why aren't you taking time with me? Why aren't you honoring me as the goddess? Even if you don't have a man in your life, or the man in your life doesn't honor you as the goddess, doesn't mean that you don't honor yourself as the goddess. Continue to show up as the goddess, and he will rise to the occasion. You know what I'm saying? Because you are the goddess. Hello. Like, so if you don't want to have these juicy pleasure sessions with me, then I'm not going to deny myself that just because you're not ready for it. I'm still going to have that for yourself. So we need to have these spaces for ourselves, and not to feel that when we're in this stage of our lives that things are over, because we're the only mammals, us and whales are the only ones that, like 40 years past being able to reproduce. And the reason for that is we have so much wisdom that we can pass to future generations for the survival of the species.
Mm.
And so we have so much more value, but our society too has conditioned women. It's the world has made a lot of money, and capitalism has made a lot of money off of women's insecurities and women striving to be sexy and to be seen and to all these things. And we get these or imprinted it through commercials that we see for decades. And so then if we're not turning heads, even if we didn't really want to be catcalled or whatever, all of a sudden when people stop turning their heads, you're like, because of ageism, you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? But our value, we need to realize our value isn't external or what media says or what other men say. It's about the value that we find and cultivate within ourselves.
There's so much. This can get so deep. We're gonna have to wrap it up. I have so many
Yes.
more questions for you, but okay, since
We
you
may have to have a round two sometime.
exactly
Tantra goes for a long time.
yes. I mean, how long does your sort of lovemaking sessions go now, generally, with all the information that you have?
It just depends. Like sometimes you can have a really in-depth, quicker 20, 30 minutes for an hour, or even 10 or 15 minutes. It's all about, it's not even so much about time, it's that depth of presence and connection. Like, can you be fully dropped in and tuned into your lover is what matters the most. So even sometimes quickies are great as well. It's just don't have a quickie and just go through the mechanics of it and we're checked out and thinking about other things. Can we truly take a moment to connect with our partner?
I think when it comes with more practice and knowing who you are and what you want, and really maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the way I'm just imagining it, is that you are now maybe more turned on by your lover, so then you don't need all that time. Like right now, I find myself, and I know a lot of women in my space, we're like, oh, slow down, slow down the horses because we need more time to rev up, and we need,
Yes.
and there may be times where you evolve and you go, you know what, I'm so tuned in, like you don't need all that time anymore. I don't know. What are you seeing in your practice with women our age?
Yes, beautiful question. That you need to be able to communicate with your partner what your need is in that moment. And if you need more time, that you're given more time because that's why there's an orgasm back because there's such a difference in our arousal cycles. And then with menopause, that can even change more. So, what is it that I'm needing in that moment? Am I resourced? Also date nights and things like that because your brain's your largest sex organ. So if I'm anticipating something, I'm in the mood, we're not just going to be ready to go at the drop of a hat. I say men are like microwave ovens. They're really quick to get things hot, ready to go, bing, they're done. Women, we're like a conventional oven. We need to be preheated. It takes some time to get that juicy casserole going. It might have to take an hour, right? So we have to just be in tune with our body and speak what our needs are and what our desires are. And I want you to think of it like music. The older we get, the less noise we want. We want harmony. We want resonance with our partner. We want depth.
Last question, and then we really have to go.
Yes.
Because you've been in this space, tantric sex, for a long time now and been working
Yes.
with women for, I guess, over a decade or two. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yeah. And then I've been working with humans for over 40 years, almost 40
Okay.
years, over 35 years. Yes.
So for several decades, you've been working with women in this space. What are, very quickly,
Yes. Quick.
three things that we can do to improve our love life today?
Take more time with yourself. Become your own best lover. Give self pleasure, tap into your turn ons, and breathe more deeply through things. Use your breath and with sound, moan, because sound is like a thief. It steals attention from your body. For women, the less tension we have, the more easy it is to orgasm. And then don't hold your breath. Sometimes when things are getting intense, we can unconsciously breath hold. And that's like snuffing out a flame from a candle. You take away the oxygen and it's gone. So breathing and just connecting to your body and letting go of any shame that you have.
Oh, got it. Great. Become your own self lover, use your breath, and then
Yes.
just let go. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Is there any last words you'd like to share before I let you go?
Just know that your safety too, and your safety in your nervous system. A lot of times as we're aging, we've carried on stress or traumas that have accumulated over the decades, and we haven't addressed those things. And our nervous system is feeling overwhelmed. So starting to create safety within our bodies is so key in regulating our nervous system. And when we can have a safe space to even let out anger or things that we've repressed and held on to, when we can work through that, we can tap in and turn on that spark of our desire.
Mm. Love it. So we will have a link to your website, yestantra.com, and your YouTube, your Instagram in the show notes. You also have a female pleasure quiz, Tantra quizzes, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes too. So thank you so
Wonderful.
much. And thanks
You're
for
so
everyone
welcome.
who made it to the end. Love you.
Yes.
I'll see you next time. Bye bye.